Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel where, for the third video in a row, we're going to be talking about this Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. But of course, the good news is that in today's video, we're going to actually talk about the complete and finished Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase because it was officially released and aired this morning, and I had a chance to watch it. And I've formed some opinions, I've seen the games, and I ultimately feel like it was exactly what we expected it to be, a partner showcase, which is to say, not really very exciting. Now, of course, I do want to be fair to everybody, and add this disclaimer here at the beginning that I'm only talking about my opinion and my perspective as my own game fan, and the things that I like and that appeal to me, as well as a little bit of what I think we can objectively expect from a good Direct. So a little bit of this is based on what objectively makes a good and exciting Nintendo Direct, but also a huge part of this is just my personal opinions. So there's a chance that maybe you're somebody who just flat out loved this Direct and you liked everything shown, or you liked enough shown to feel like it was still a very, very good Direct. But that's just not me personally. I didn't really get anything exciting or interesting out of this Direct partner presentation. But again, going back to the kind of opening statement here, because we knew this was a partner presentation, that's kind of the expectation I and many people had, which was just going to be a disappointing show because there really hasn't been a very good one of these yet. This is now the fifth one they've had since the 4 they did in 2020. And this is what they had to show us here in the middle of the year, in the month that is normally reserved for E3, where many other companies have stepped up and shown a lot of great and exciting stuff. Nintendo ultimately kind of dropped the ball here for this summer and really hasn't blown anyone away. Of course, before we dive any deeper into the Nintendo Direct topic today, I like to remind you guys I'm always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review. I am slowly closing in on 20,000 subscribers. And man, I really hope that I hit that sometime soon. I'm very, very excited. I upload every single week and I talk about all things Nintendo and all things gaming. So as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then I hope you will consider subscribing to the channel. So yeah, to continue the conversation I'm having with you guys, I really just found the Nintendo Direct partner presentation to be completely on par with the previous 4 from the end of last year. And I really didn't like those, and I didn't really care for much in this one. Now, here's the thing. There was probably 2 or 3 announcements across all 4 from 2020 that I ultimately thought were good and fine or even kind of exciting announcements, absolutely. The biggest one being the announcement of Monster Hunter Rise. That was actually a massive, massive reveal. And there are a couple of things that are like noteworthy for me coming out of today's. You know, I feel like that's the best way I can describe it, as noteworthy, because there was really 0 surprises. I mean, literally 0 surprises, at least for me. I guess maybe the last thing about Persona was kind of a surprise for people, but I know, you know, folks have been talking about Persona for a while. I have no idea what's happening with that series. I don't follow it, and people just are always talking about it, and so I'm just out of the loop when it comes to everything about that. So I guess maybe outside of that thing, maybe being considered a quote-unquote surprise, there was no other surprises in this Direct, and nothing really all that meaningful. So that's just my opinion, but there are still, again, a couple of noteworthy things, and I don't really want to do the boring thing where I list every single game and say, here's this game, it was talked about, it's about this, and it's a game that is existing. You know, I don't really want to do that because I think that's boring, and that's what everyone else does. And so, yeah, you know, for the most part, it was just focused on, you know, what I call kind of weird games, and that doesn't have to be a negative thing. So if you love these games, I don't want you to take it as super personal. But you just get all these kind of weird games like, you know, harvesting, farming simulator games, and Disney characters walking around with text box games, and I don't know, picture book games where you're flipping through pages and using magic erasers to erase things and make characters walk, you know, in pencil etching formats, and, you know, just those kind of weird, quirky indie game stuff that I know a lot of people like, and many times they're very artistically driven, and so that's why a lot of folks like those types of games. I'm just going to be real, they've never appealed to me. They're with the few exceptions, they're not the kind of game experiences that even register on my radar personally. So when we have a Nintendo Direct, for example, that is chock full of them, I mean, made up almost entirely of games like that, that's why I walk away from a Direct like this and say it wasn't really for me, and it wasn't exciting to me. When these games are like sprinkled throughout a normal presentation that has a bunch of other kind of interesting things or games that are appealing to a wider variety of person, that's when they make a lot more sense because you're getting something for everyone. But a Direct like this focused, 80% on stuff like that, that's where I just kind of feel like, not really for me. So the biggest thing I want to actually talk about here is what wasn't shown. And this to me is the biggest disappointment of the Direct and the biggest thing that just for me and my gaming tastes hurt the Direct for me and made it something I didn't really care for. And that is the complete lack of Bayonetta 3. A lot of us were speculating that since this was going to be a partner showcase and focused on third-party games, that there were two main third-party games that we knew could show up in this that would be exciting. One of them did, and one of them didn't, which is Bayonetta 3. And I'll be real with you, like, Bayonetta 3, I think for the rest of this year, well, that's not true. I'm excited for Xenoblade and I'm excited for Splatoon, but those are a little bit more of known quantities. Bayonetta 3 has been in development for a long time. It's a franchise I absolutely adore. This kind of gameplay and what Bayonetta is just the kind of game that is made straight out of my DNA. It is made for me. Love the first two games. So excited for Bayonetta 3, and it was a no-show today in the third-party Direct. I know Nintendo's publishing it, you guys, but it is still not a Nintendo IP. It is a third-party Platinum-owned IP. It is their IP. Nintendo just owns publishing rights for 2 out of the 3 games. Okay, so it ends right there. And so this game could have shown up in this Direct if they wanted to, but they didn't show it. And so we don't know what's happening with that game. And the main reason it's a problem for me is that I'm actually worried about that game. The fact that it didn't show up today makes me worried it might not be coming out in 2022. And I think that's going to do huge damage to the quality of the back half of the year for the Switch's library specifically. I want this game, man. I'm so ready for it. It's been 5 years. We've seen one trailer, and I loved the first trailer. I loved the little glimpse we did see. I think this game is going to be just a home run. But I'm ready to see more, and I would love to see it confirmed for 2022. But this third-party Direct didn't have the game, so to me that is a huge, massive miss. Now, they did talk about Mario and Rabbids, and they showed some gameplay and showed some stuff. And I mean, the game looks solid. It looks totally fine. Like I said in yesterday's video, I'm still on the fence about even buying any Ubisoft game right now, just because Ubisoft is unfortunately not a great company. But I enjoyed the first one quite a bit, and I think this one will probably also be very good. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's Mario and Rabbids, and it looks good, and it looks fine, and it looks fun. So that's good. It's technically a good thing. The release date leaked the day before, October 20th. So hey, we know what the big October game is. It's Mario and Rabbids. So that was nice to see. Outside of that game, the lack of Bayonetta, all the kind of weirder indie games that I referenced at the beginning, the rest of it was mostly just ports of older games. And I will admit, there are 2 ports that are exciting to me, which is Portal and Nier Automata coming to the Switch. I mean, they're older games. I've played those games. I like those games. But they're old ports. So it's like, okay, great, I guess. More old ports from the 7th generation. Like, there's hundreds of those on the Switch. And so it's not like it's bad, and like, I'm glad to see it in a way, but I don't know if I have any reason to buy or play those games, and if I do, I don't know why I'd play them on Switch, because I think they're also available on the other newer platforms as well. So what's the benefit to putting them on Switch, at least for me? So again, they're great games, and I'm glad they're available on Switch, but it would have been nice if these games were available on Switch like the day the Switch console launched. In year number 6, I don't know if they have the same impact as they would have in year number 1, right? So it is what it is. And you know what? I'm just going to throw caution to the wind, and I'm going to make everyone upset who hasn't followed me on Twitter when I say I am the only living human being on the entire planet Earth who is actually excited for Sonic Frontiers. I think that game looks really good. I do not understand the hate. I do not understand everyone completely being upset with everything they've seen about it. I feel like we're on two different planes of existence. A lot of times when, I feel differently than other people, it's pretty easy for me to track the logic of folks who feel a certain way about a game. I can be like, oh, I'll bring up Persona, for example. People like Persona games. There's nothing about them that appeals to me, but you know what? I know their quality. I've seen the reviews. I know the style of game that they go for. And so the fact that there are some people that really like that franchise, it's like, well, I don't like that franchise or care for it, but I see why you do. But with Sonic Frontiers, I cannot follow the logic of everyone who thinks this game looks like the worst thing in the world. I think it looks just awesome for a Sonic game. Now, I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong. The game's not out. I haven't played it. So the final product may suck. Sonic doesn't have the best track record in the last 2 decades. I get it. But based on what we've seen, I only see an awesome looking Sonic game, and so I hope it delivers. And so, this is a very long-winded way for me to say that seeing the Sonic Frontiers trailer, we already knew the game was coming to Switch, but we saw a trailer with, I think, some new footage in it. And so, that was also another thing I would put in the good category. This was a very, very, very stretched out way for me to say that this is one of the few things that, to me, was fine and good and of quality and that I would put in the good category. And so, at the end of the day, it just was what it was, man. It was a Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. Boy, do I hate saying that full name. It's so bad, Nintendo. You gotta change it to something else. I'm not, mad about this, though, and if you didn't like it, I hope you're not mad. There's no reason to start yelling and tweeting Nintendo and fighting with people if you loved it or if you hated it. To me, that's just silly. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. The only things I liked out of it were, games that I played, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and that's about it, I'm really bummed that Bayonetta 3 wasn't here, and now I'm nervous about the release date for that game. That's my big takeaway. A couple of ports I've already played, and a game that we didn't see. So that's really all we've got when it comes to this Nintendo Direct. But, there's no reason to be mad. It's like I said in yesterday's video, at the end of the day, something is better than nothing. It's not like it's actively damaging to see trailers for games just because you may not want to play them. And hey, I didn't want to play almost any game in this entire Direct, but I'm still not mad about it. I'm just, my review of the Direct is disappointing. But my emotion isn't anger, right? So we got to be able to be adults and to regulate these things. Granted, on Twitter and YouTube, there are a lot of not adults, a lot of young people out there who don't know how to regulate their emotions and only have video games to care about in their life. And that's up to those people, man. But for me, and I know for most of you guys too, I want to say, it is what it is. You either loved it or you didn't love it. And if you didn't love it, there's no reason to start, freaking out and screaming at people about it. But I will say, to end here, it's disappointing that Nintendo is playing it cool, man. They don't really seem to have much to show us right now. I'm nervous about the rest of 2022. Now, we will probably get another good Direct, a full traditional Direct in a couple of months, and I'm willing to bet it'll be pretty good because they'll probably be able to start pumping the games for next year, which includes, Zelda and probably is going to end up including Bayonetta 3. And I am expecting Metroid to show up in the next traditional Direct as well, as I said recently. And I will be making a Metroid video probably tomorrow on that specific topic, by the way. And so, I don't know, man. Nintendo just didn't bring it this year. They didn't care about E3. They didn't care about the summer. They didn't care about what the competition was doing. And the competition made them look, in my opinion, pretty bad in terms of presentations and content goes. So, I don't know. They're just, it's one of those years, it's one of those summers for Nintendo where they're kind of just letting things ride with, the bare minimum kind of going out, I mean, they released a 40-minute Treehouse video for Live Alive, which is fine. It's not a game. At first, it was a game I thought I was into. Now I think it's a game I'm not going to play. Maybe a little bit too JRPG-ish for me, even though I love that graphic style. So that's the thing that they did too today, which is cool, I guess. So I don't know, man. I guess not much else to say. I think you guys know how I feel. So I just want to hear how you feel, Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you middle of the road? When do you think we'll get the next regular Direct? How are you feeling about Nintendo's 2022 so far? In my opinion, it's a bit underwhelming, but that's okay. These years happen. And that's all I have to say about that. So thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review. I will catch you next time on another video. Bye-bye.